Hello, my name is Rickard, and in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to recreate this Mickey 17 poster using Photoshop. I recently ran across this poster and I thought it'd be a great opportunity to show you a hidden step and repeat function inside of Photoshop. Now, if you want to follow along, I have included all the assets that I use in a link in the description of this video. So go ahead, download those, and then let's dive into Photoshop. All right, let's go to New File. And over here on the right, let's go ahead and call this Movie Poster. And we're going to set the dimensions here to pixels. I want this to be 2000 pixels wide by 3000 pixels tall. That's 72 resolution, RGB color 8-bit, sRGB, everything else looks good. Let's go ahead and hit create. Next thing we're going to do is set up some guides. So let's go to View, Guides, New Guide Layout, and let's go here to Default. I'm going to change the columns to 4 with no gutter. I'm going to change the rows to 5 with no gutter. I'm going to turn on the margins, add a top margin of 144, a left margin of 120, a bottom of 180, and a right of 120. Let's go ahead and hit OK. The next thing we're going to do is set up some of our backgrounds. And the first one is just going to be a paper color. So let's go, we can set the paper color here before we even add our solid color layer. So let's go ahead and do that. This is going to be D8, D8, D8. Let's hit OK. And then let's go ahead and add our solid color layer. Hit OK. And let's call this paper. All right, our next layer is going to be our yellow frame. And for that, I'm going to make a marquee selection within these guide margins. And then let's go here, set our color to E1, B109, hit OK, and then add another solid color. And we can call this one frame. All right, next we're going to pull in our main character. So let's go to File, Open, and inside of our assets, we're going to open this Pexels file. And here what I want to do is remove the background, and we have this nifty feature here to do that. But before I use this, I want to go up to my settings, go up to image processing, and make sure this is set to cloud rather than device. This is going to give you much better results. They might take a little bit longer, but it's worth it. Let's hit OK, and then let's hit remove background. That's done a great job. Let's right mouse click, convert to smart object, and let's call this Mickey. I'm going to go ahead and drag it by the tab here, and then just drag this layer into here. Let's do Command T for transform. Here I'm just going to kind of place him in the frame. And what we want to do here is he's going to have two positions, a final position and then the larger position from which he's scaling down in the various iterations. And what I want to do is first set up his final position. And with his final position set, we'll then also establish what his intermediary positions are going to be. So let's go ahead and scale him down. And basically I want the 17 on his belt here to just show up at the bottom of our frame. And then here, if we pull the helmet up until the 7 is hitting that guide right there. So this is kind of the size that I want him, basically right there. And then I want to nudge him to the left here so that his kind of eyes, that guide is pretty much centered between his two eyes there. So right about there, let's hit that check mark. Okay, so now that we have him placed, what we're going to do is establish where our anchor point is for scaling him up and then doing the step and repeat. So we're going to actually set up a guide here for where the anchor point is going to be. So we're going to go to View, Guides, New Guide, Make sure this is set to horizontal, and then here we're going to set this to 2690. Let's hit OK. All right, now we have a guide. Let's do Command 0 to zoom out. I'm going to do Command T. Then I'm going to take this anchor point here. If you don't see your anchor point, you can turn it on right there. And actually, I'm going to zoom right in here. Make sure I'm right on that anchor point there. All right, and then we can zoom out, and holding down Option, I'm just going to grab a corner here and scale this up until he's just about hitting the top of the yellow frame. Let's hit that check mark. All right, so this is going to be his final large position, and then we've already established what his smaller position is going to be. Now, before I make copies of him or anything else, I do want to do one step, and that is bring out the details in his costume or in his fire suit so that when we scale him down, we have a really dynamic edge. So to do that, I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, Shadow Highlights. All right, the default settings look really good. You can see it's bringing out the detail there. Let's go ahead and hit OK. I don't want this happening to his face, however, so let's go in here, go to our Object Selection tool, make a selection of his face area here, and then I'm going to go ahead and select that Smart Filter, and then Option Delete to fill that with black in the mask. Now do Command Delete, or Command D to deselect, sorry. Go onto my Move tool, let's zoom out. All right, so this looks good. The next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and just hold down Option, drag this up, make a copy. You can also do Command J. And I want to rasterize this copy. So I'm going to right mouse click, rasterize layer, and let's go ahead and get rid of the copy. So this one's just called Mickey. And then I'm going to do Command T for transform. Again, place this anchor point right there where we want it. And then this is going to be our first transform. So this one, we want it to be very accurate. So make sure you're pixel perfect on that anchor point. And then here, type in 94.4. That's how much we're going to scale it. And then we're going to hit this check mark. Okay, so there you can see the beginnings of the effect that we want to create. And there's a bit of a hidden step and repeat function inside of Photoshop. And that's with using the transform tool. So if you hold down Shift, Option, Command, and T, what that's going to do is it's going to repeat your last transform while also making a copy. Now this does not work on smart objects, which is why we had to make a rasterized copy of this layer. All right, so I'm going to hold down Option, Command, and then click on T. You can see right away what that did. It made a copy. I'm going to keep doing this until we get to copy 15. And you can see in our layer stack, there we are at copy 15. And now he's basically down to that same size where we started, where that 27 was right under that guide. So this is going to be Mickey 17. And these are the 16 other copies of Mickey. We're going to select all those and then do Command G to put them in a group. And we're going to call this Other Mickeys. All right, now what I want to do is I want to copy this frame mask onto the other Mickeys. I can do that by holding down Option, Command, and dragging the mask. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to use some blending tricks to apply almost a threshold effect to this and then give it that Xerox color effect that you see in the original poster. So let's go here down to our adjustment layers. I'm going to add a solid color and we're going to make this C7, C7, C7. So a very kind of a light gray color. And I hit OK. And I want this to clip to our other Mickey's group. So I'm going to hold down Option and clip it. Then we're going to set this to hard mix. And what that's doing is it's creating a threshold effect on our background. Now it's too strong right now, so we're going to take our fill down to 65. And that's going to lessen the effect quite a bit. All right, next we're going to add a gradient map to our background. So let's go here and add gradient map toward the bottom. We're going to clip this so it's just applying to our other Mickey's group. And then we're going to set some colors here. So let's click on the gradient to bring up our gradient editor. And I click on the first color here. And we're going to change this color to A53F29. So kind of a burnt brick color. Let's hit OK. We're going to add another one to the 50% location. And then this one is going to be B1A B9F. So kind of a warm gray color. And then the last one is going to be the same as our paper color. So that's D8, D8, D8. Okay, and there you can see we now have that kind of cool step and repeat effect from the original poster. Now let's go ahead and do some finishing touches. One is if you look at the original poster, he has almost a similar kind of single color background or a single color effect or duotone effect as the background. So we're going to do that to our Mickey here. So let's go ahead and add a gradient map. We're going to clip this so it just applies to Mickey 17. And for this gradient map, I want it to start at black, but right after black, so at location around 7, we're going to add a really dark blue color. So this is going to be 000-18. And then at around the 47 spot there, we're going to make this color 6B9AA0. So kind of a desaturated cyan color. And then finally, we're going to make this kind of an off-white, EEE. Let's hit OK. And let's hit OK here. So that looks good in terms of his outfit, but we don't want his skin tones to have this color. So let's go ahead and add some masks to our gradient map layer. And the first one is if we select our Mickey, we can again just select this face with a quick object selection here, and then black is our foreground color, so we can option delete on that mask. And then I'm actually going to go to the brush tool here and change my foreground color to white, because I do want the gradient map just in his eyes, just so that we get that nice blue color from the rest of him also applied to his eyes. So that looks really good. I also need to get rid of this color on the hands. For that, I can just use a brush. So I'll go ahead and make this brush a bit bigger, maybe a little bit harder, and then switch it to black with X on my keyboard, and then just paint out the hands here. I'm also going to make the brush very soft and then just hit inside the reflection here a few times. All right, that looks good. The other thing is this patch right here. I'm going to paint that out of the mask as well, because I do want that to retain the original yellow color. Um, it's the same color that we're using in the background. So if we look at this as kind of a, monocolored or duotone colored print, it would make sense that they would have used this on the patch as well. That looks really good. All right, and then the other thing we have to do here is all of his skin tones look very photographic right now. They don't look like a colored illustration. So to do that, we're going to add another layer here. We can call this skin tones. I'm going to change the blend mode here to color. And then let's go ahead and change our color to a skin tone color, which is E0AC91. Let's hit OK. What I want to do here is I want to paint in those areas. Now we already have a mask here, so I can hold down Command, click on my mask, and then just invert my mask. And then with that selection, I can kind of paint all these areas where the skin is. And we can do the same with the hands. Okay, so that's looking much better. Now, just to give a little more touch of realism, I'm going to set this to 80, just so a little bit of the original color is coming through. And I'm going to also set this to 85. Again, so just a touch of the original color is coming through there. All right, so that finishes our artwork. We can put these in a group here. We can call this Mickey. And then the last thing I want to do is just add some titles. I'm not going to add all the titles that are on the film poster, but enough so that you get an idea of how you would do that for this film poster. So let's go ahead and deselect our layer. We can do that by kind of clicking here outside of any layer, or going to under here, select, and then deselect layers. That way when we add our text layer, it's not putting it in the Mickey group, it's just putting it outside at the top of our layer stack. We're going to change the color here to 292929. That's just a dark kind of almost off black color. And for the first text here, we're going to change our font to Bebas Kai, and this is an Adobe font, so if you don't have it, you can download it from your Adobe font library. We're going to change the size here to 65, and let's go ahead and type in our first text, which is a film from Bong Joon-ho. And we're going to select all here. Let's open up our character palette. We're going to change this to 600. We're going to change this to 100. And then I'm going to go ahead and set this to centered. And then what I want to do is select just the name here and change that up to 90. There you go. And then let's move that down just a little bit and a little bit to the left so it's nice and centered there. All right, and then let's go ahead and turn on our guides with Command semicolon. The next thing I'm going to do is the actor name. So let's hold down Option, drag this down to right about there. I'm going to go ahead and select all. And then here, I'm going to change this to 115. Change our tracking here to 460. And then I'm going to change the color to white. And then let's go ahead and change this to Robert Pattinson. And we're going to move this down just a little bit. I really want it just kind of hitting the top of that guide, maybe going past it just a tiny bit. All right, and then let's hold down Option one more time. I'm going to drag this down, and here I'm going to do the last one, which will be a different font. For this, I'm going to use IBM Plex mono medium. This is also an Adobe font, so you can grab it from your Adobe fonts if you don't have it. We're going to change this to Mickey 17. I'm not going to put a space between 17. I'm just going to go between the two, hold down Option, and then add a bit of tracking like here. All right, and then we'll select all, change this to 10. And here I'm also going to scale the letters just a tiny bit, like so. And then we're going to change this to much larger, 410. All right, and then also going to just take in a space a little bit there as well. Right about there. Okay, and then let's go ahead and move this down just a tiny bit, right about there. Okay, and then if we open up the other Mickey folders, what I want to do is see which of these Mickeys overlaps on top of our lettering. So the further up in the stack I go, the smaller they get. Okay, so I need to go this way. And it looks like this one right here, Mickey copy 6. So what I'm going to do is hold down Command, click on that, so I'm getting that overlap of our Mickey 17 there. And then what I want to do is take these 3 layers, do Command G to put them in a group, and on that group I'm going to add a layer or a layer mask. Now when I add the mask, I'm going to hold down Option so that it hides instead of reveals whatever my selection is. And we're going to call this titling. And let's go ahead and open this. And then the other thing I want to do is add a mask to my Mickey 17. Go ahead and make a thin pixel selection. So a few pixels, about 15 pixels. I'm going to do transform selection. Make this a little bit less. And I'll hold down Shift so it's just scaling this way. All right, and then right about there, with my mask selected, I'm going to fill with black so we get that cutoff text effect. All right, so there you have it. That's all I'm going to do for the titling. Obviously, the poster has more titles, more actor names, but you can basically follow these same steps to do the rest of the titling if you feel so inclined. But the last thing we are going to do is add that nice paper texture over the whole thing that you do see in the original poster. Let's go ahead and turn off our guides with Command semicolon. And for this, I'm going to go File, Place Embedded. And in here, there's 2 Texture Lab files. Whichever one of these you want to use is up to you. I'm going to use the 3491. Go ahead and place that. And then I'm going to rotate this and then scale it up so that it's the size of our entire canvas there, and then hit the check mark. Then I'm going to set this to linear light. And the reason I'm using linear light is linear light affects both your black and your white. So in my whites, you can see we're adding more detail, but also if you go to your blacks, you can see that we're also adding detail. Now this is a very, very strong blending effect. So what we're going to do is we're going to change our fill setting here all the way down to 30. And even at 30, it's a very, very strong effect. But now you can see it looks like this is really printed on kind of a worn paper there. So there you have it. That's how you recreate that poster in Photoshop. And hopefully through this, you learn tips, tricks, and techniques that you can use in your own projects. Now, if you enjoy Photoshop and you want to learn through more projects like this one, check out Nucly.com. I sell professional training and tools for Photoshop. And if you want a sampling of them, check out my Photoshop Creators Toolkit. In there, I give you a sample of professional brushes, textures, overlays, and presets, as well as an hour of training on how to use them. Right now, it's free for a limited time, so check that out. I'll include a link to it below as well. Otherwise, here's some other tutorials that you can check out, and I will see you next time.